Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Ultimate Comics Podcast. My name is Nabeel Gaber, and I'm one of your hosts.
I'm Josh Kang, the other host.
And this is the podcast where we talk about Ultimate Marvel, an imprint of Marvel Comics that began in the year 2000, and attempt to modernize and reimagine Marvel and its characters for the 21st century. So Josh and I have been going through Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, the Ultimates, Ultimate Fantastic Four, and everything in between. Every episode, just talking about a new batch of issues, talking about what we think, what we like, what we don't, what works, what hasn't aged so well, and how it's influenced other media like Marvel's movies, TV series, animation. So it's been a lot of fun. And this week we're talking about Ultimate Fantastic Four once again, the second story arc, issues 7 through 12. Josh, what do you think of these issues?
I generally like Ultimate Fantastic Four. I feel it's the perfect in between ground between Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate X-Men, where it's similar enough but also different enough. And I do love Ultimate Spider-Man. I do feel that compared to the other ones, you generally know what's going to happen. It's very much shortened or even like streamlined versions of the main 616 storyline. Well, for Ultimate X-Men, it could go like wackadoodles different ways. And Ultimate Fantastic Four, I feel, is like a perfect in between.
No, I agree with you there. Yeah, I think Ultimate Fantastic Four feels a lot like what you would expect from a Fantastic Four story, at least so far from what we've gotten. But it's also got its own modern spin on things, which is cool and really fun and leaves you guessing to see what's going to happen next and how they'll change things. This is a pretty different story because the first story arc, we had Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Miller writing with Adam Kubert on art. But then after that, because obviously Bendis and Miller and Kubert are all super busy. So for this second story arc, we got Warren Ellis as the writer and Stuart Immonen on art. And they're a great team because I know they both did Next Wave together, which was kind of like a cult hit. It's a really fun series that they did that I really love. It's super funny and enjoyable and fast paced. And Warren Ellis also is well known for Planetary as well with John Cassidy, another great series, and also like kind of an homage, it felt like, to Fantastic Four and those comics. I mean, despite all the problematic things that have come out about Warren Ellis in the past few years, I
Would you
say
like
what
to
you
enlighten
will,
us?
like I get it. I read up on it, and it's some pretty nasty stuff about him taking advantage of female fans and like his position as like a
Oh,
famous comic book writer, and just like some things that have come out about him. It's all pretty messy, so I'm not gonna weigh in because I don't know too much about it. But yeah, I understand that Warren Ellis has been controversial in recent years because of a lot of the things that have come out about him, and it's disappointing and disheartening every time something like that happens. But I can't deny that I have enjoyed his writing on comics. I think he's a great writer and does a good job too, just letting the artist and the art speak for itself in the comic. So I think these two together,
yeah.
and Stuart Immonen's art is like gorgeous. I think the two of them together work really well. So it's a very fun arc, and this is also an arc that we finally focus on Ultimate Doctor Doom, Victor Van
Who's not called
Dam,
Doom
as
yet?
they've called him. So it's a very fun one.
You know, I would like to say something about Millar and Bendis. Bendis is obviously going. I think he's going back to Ultimate Spider-Man after doing the short arc earlier he did with Millar on Ultimate's Fantastic Four. But I think Millar, they move him around because Millar, I think, is this is when his career gets really big with Ultimate X-Men, and this one they're gonna move him to 616. He's gonna do his own thing. I think creates like his own universe or his own company at one point that has like some big hits.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. He does have his own like universe and his own imprint of comics.
Like Kick-Ass and Hit Girl, I think, are his characters, right?
Yeah, that's right. That is Mark Millar.
I don't know. It's always interesting. I feel it's like a lot of the MCU movies at times for the Ultimate Comics, where like if you're a new character, new but doing okay actor, you get your start in the MCU or Ultimate Comics, and you move on to quote unquote better things. You know.
Yeah, that's true. Because this
Yeah,
was around the same time too. Because Bendis was still doing Ultimate Spider-Man, but this was around the same time that he started his run on Avengers in the main line, starting
yeah,
with like Avengers Disassembled and then going into New Avengers.
yeah,
So big things were definitely on the horizon and up and coming for both Bendis
yeah.
and Millar. So I can see why scheduling conflicts would get in the way.
Yeah, and it does also remind me that Millar. It's funny. I think the comic Millar started on is very much like a forgotten or a cult thing now. But he actually took a pay cut to do Ultimate Marvel, which I do respect. Like that's a big move, and also Marvel was broke at the time. So
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine just getting the opportunity to work on these characters and work for a big company like Marvel would be worth it. I can understand
yeah,
that. And get your name in with the big two. It's
yeah,
pretty exciting.
yeah. I like these issues though. It has all the things you like. It has Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom being relatively good at administering a people group. You got the family move where they all team up and beat him after not being able to do it, which I feel is a
Hmm.
hallmark of any Fantastic Four esque thing, including their Incredibles, which is very much a Fantastic Four like not a copy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think a lot of people point out that The Incredibles is basically what they would want from a good Fantastic Four movie, and
Yeah.
that it is just a family of superheroes working together.
Mm-hmm.
I see it. I don't 100% agree with it because there's a lot of other elements to the Fantastic Four that you would want to include, mainly like the scientific aspects and the exploration aspects of the whole thing. It makes sense, but it always felt like a little bit of a shallow reading for me. I was like, yeah, it's about a family of superheroes, and they almost all have exactly the same powers as the
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, and you can tell there's a lot of influence there, but it's not exactly the same. That's just my like pedantic nerd brain talking. But I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
if we really want to get into the specific, like the Fantastic Four are not exactly like the Incredibles.
The other thing I feel is really fantastic about the
Uh
Fantastic
huh.
Four, is
Say that again.
the fantastic thing about the Fantastic Four
Yes.
is
Yes, it is.
the classic rivalry between Reed and Doctor Doom, which I feel is a very
Hmm.
special villain relationship. I feel you kind of
Yeah.
get it with Batman and Joker to a certain degree. No, but like it's different from Batman and Joker fundamentally. It's like there's a genuine attraction, like this dynamic attraction between the two of them, which is that they don't like. I feel they don't like that they respect the other.
Yeah.
Though I feel
They just hate that they think that Victor hates that Reed is so hot and Reed hates that Victor is so hot, is what you're saying.
no, no, no. That's the relationship we wanted from Danny and Rain from New Mutants that was originally planned. I feel where
So
Rain
you're
was
denying
ugly
this queer hero villain relationship during Pride Month?
just between Doom and Mister Fantastic. Though according to the creator, I like one art. I think like to be fair, I don't think she wrote Fantastic Four yet, but she says I bet Doctor Doom masturbates to Reed all the time. So you know who knows.
I mean, probably right.
Well,
Like, I'll
oh,
just say it
whoa.
right now. I'm not convinced that Reed is in love with Doom, but I can guarantee you that Doom is in love with Reed and he's just in deep
That
denial.
that is not true. Doom doesn't have such trivial feelings. He cannot be bullied into feelings he doesn't have.
Well, I'm sure all you listeners out there can tell that this episode is going to be filled with Josh's Doom propaganda. So
Haha.
I feel like without further ado, let's just get into it.
You mean without further ado?
A Doom. Without further ado,
Huh?
let's begin this doomed podcast.
Yeah.
So we start off issue number 7 with Reed standing on top of the Baxter building, looking out at the sky, and he's having these intense flashbacks to the accident when they were running that test that turned them into the Fantastic Four. And it's a pretty visceral, like well done flashback. But I also thought it was really funny because then you see the accident happening and you see a brief glimpse of Man Thing, which I thought was a really fun little cameo in this flashback of like, oh, okay. Just Stuart Immonen throwing something in there of like, hey Marvel fans, you recognize him? I'm like, yes I do.
Reed is at the remembering this and is crying because you know he's traumatized. But then he figures out what probably happened, because he goes, I got the calculations right, is that he remembers Doom and he had a disagreement, and he thinks Doom just went back
Hmm.
and redid it, which the machines didn't have a good reaction to, which caused the accident.
Yeah, exactly. And he's been dwelling on this since the first storyline of this series, since the origin. He's been dwelling on this for a while, and he's
Yeah.
convinced that Doom, or calling him Doom, but Victor, since he's Van Damme, Victor did something to mess with Reed's equations and disrupt the experiment that turned them into the Fantastic Four.
What's interesting is we were talking about his name Van Damme. We finally get a weird explanation behind the Van Damme. And it's literally straight out of Austin Powers, where he goes like, "We changed the name in Belgium, and you'll find out your your great family history on your 10th birthday. This great secret."
And that happens here because then after we get this scene of Reed monologuing to Dr. Storm on the Baxter building roof about how Victor messed with the equations, we then see a flashback to Victor's 10th birthday where his father sits him down. And this is where it gets wild because then he's like, "Oh, we are descendants of Dracula."
Mm-hmm.
Is the whole thing. They descended from Dracula, the historical figure Dracula, and his dad gives him a whole history lesson on this guy who showed no mercy for his enemies and no tolerance towards crimes. He led these ignorant people to greatness. And I'm like, this is unhinged because, I mean, Doom's origin is pretty crazy in the main comics. And it also reminded me a little bit of how, in the main universe, for a while, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby planted this seed that Doom might be Kang's ancestor, or that maybe Kang is actually a version of Doom from the future or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy, and that is like very messy. But this is also just comically like, you're saying he's a descendant of Dracula?
It's a common trope that I feel they always go for aristocratic, dark, moody figures. That he goes like, "I am a descendant of Dracula." That being said, I have heard Romanian people think of Dracula differently. They think, "Oh, he's pretty cool." So I don't know.
He's a chill guy.
He's a chill guy. He was our king for a few years.
Yeah, we love Dracula. What a
Yeah,
great guy.
I
Did
don't
some
know.
great stuff for our country.
I know we have some Italian fans. If there's any Romanian fans, let us know. Is Dracula just considered a cool dude in your country? Like, I don't know. We have
Yeah.
George Washington. He did some messed up stuff too. We consider him relatively cool. Is he just the George Washington of Romania? He's like, oh look, he did some bad stuff. Like he stuck a spike up through someone's ass. But
But
he
hey, he
also,
chopped down a cherry tree.
that's right. But also, it is a common trope. I don't know if this is the thing that's of Doom just having this illustrious ancestry, because like in Marvel 1600, they have Doom having a long ancestry, and like you said in 616, they plant the seed that perhaps he is the ancestor of Kang.
Yeah, Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, and I feel sometimes I forget it's either with Doom or Zemo or maybe both. There's always a scene where they travel back in time and they meet some evil ancestor of Doom or Zemo. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, literally.
yeah,
So this is pretty typical, but also kind of wild, which I guess is typical for Doctor Doom, is that he's got a wild backstory. So we're like, okay, so he's a descendant of Dracula. That's cool. Later on, we see Sue, the Invisible Woman, checking in on Reed, and she's like, hey, someone's avoiding the bioscanner, and it's
it's
you.
you. And she like throws herself at him because she's trying to seduce him.
Well, she's very adamant and aggressive. She's very take charge in
Yeah,
this storyline, which I like. She takes initiative a lot more here because if you look, especially at the original Stanley Jack Kirby run on the Fantastic Four, was such a weak character. And it's mainly because Stanley could not write a woman to save his life. But it wasn't even until the 80s with the John Byrne run on Fantastic Four that Sue became a strong character and a vital member of the team that you're like, oh, you don't want to mess with her. So it's cool to see kind of a more take charge version of the character here in Ultimate right away.
yeah. I will also say though, you and I just discussed this. Vanessa Kirby and the writers of the new movie have said like, oh, we're basing Sue on where she's the take charge boss of the Fantastic Four, and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's just Ultimate that they're basing it off of.
Well, I think she is like that a lot in the main universe in a lot of the more modern runs too,
Yeah,
because you look at the Mark Waid stuff or the Jonathan Hickman stuff as well, or like I mentioned earlier, John Byrne's run. There's a lot of really good material for Sue in the main 616 comics. It just doesn't come until later on.
yeah.
Can't wait to review the movie.
Oh yeah, the movie's coming out soon.
Yeah, just like a month and a half.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sue definitely lays down the hammer on Reed, and she's like, I'm a biotechnologist. You're not getting away without getting these scans that need to be taken so we can make sure you're okay. And we get a sign also that they are together as a couple because then he's like, oh, can we make out
Well,
afterwards?
well, she initiates it, so he's under pressure to ask that question.
Josh is just hardcore in denial that Reed and Sue are in a relationship for some weird reason.
They are in a
I'm
relationship,
sure
but
you've all you listeners out there, if you've made it this far, you're probably familiar with the fact that Josh just hates, I guess, romance and sex generally
look,
for some reason.
no, no, no. Let's see. Reed is just a stoic figure, and we know he becomes a very stoic man later on. And it's against his character something demand. I'm just saying, the Sue is like putting a lot of pressure on him to perform a certain way
I don't think so, because he literally asked, "Oh, can we make out afterwards?" And
because he's
he's
under
like,
the
"I think
pressure
I'm
to.
getting good at it." Well, he seems proud of it because he's like, "I think I'm getting good at it," and she's like, "You started good. You're getting fantastic." So I think it's really cute, the relationship they've got here. I think it's really sweet.
Yeah, it is sweet, but we all know who wears the pants in it.
Well, there we go. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it, but there's always a dominant personality in a relationship. So
Oh, here we go.
yes,
The dominant personality
oh,
talk
there's
again.
always a dominant
That's a
personality
throwback.
in every relationship, whether it's romantic or like presidential or like between two artists. There's always a dominant figure.
Whatever you say, man.
Yeah,
All right. Well, we've established that. Then we get to the bioscan on Reed, and even on the way there, this arc has a lot of talk about the Fantastic Four's biology and a lot of just how they work and how they function. It felt like there was a lot of focus on that in these issues because Sue is talking about, like, well, how does Ben the thing? How does he breathe? How do his lungs work? And also, Reed, you haven't even been eating, and that's also when they discover that when they do the bioscan that Reed has no internal organs. So there's not even a stomach for him to digest with, really. It's just like a sack of bacteria inside there.
I'll be honest. I felt this. I'm not against it, but it's a little too much, to be honest.
It's a little excessive. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I get that this, well, I mean, it makes sense because this is the Fantastic Four, so there's going to be a lot of science talk there, and there's going to be a lot of, but yeah, I'm like, maybe we don't need to know all about the Fantastic Four's biology and how Reed has no
Yeah.
organs.
And I do love because I feel this will be a question they ask is if this is realistic was they go like, does Ben poop? You need to ask him if he poops because we're really curious about if he poops. And you know what?
Yeah.
I kind of am. I kind of that is actually something I want. Like I feel like there's all these comic on Reddit and space forums or whatever the old comic forums were of like, well, like is Ben still in there deep down? I mean, the answer is no. We find out because of the way it is. But they always answer like, oh, if you rip apart the rocks, is it just a dude in there? But the answer is no. But he still poops.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But I think
Yeah,
it's really
yeah,
cool how this also dives deeper into Sue's character because she talks about how she always wanted to be an astronaut, but she says she didn't really have the head for outer space and the cosmos and everything. So she says she chose inner space instead, became like a biotechnologist and focused on that. And I think that like adds a lot more to the character, especially if in this version she has more of a scientific background as well. She specializes in biology, which also touches on Josh's pet peeve about how every scientific character has to be an expert at every form of scientist. At least in this version, it clarifies she's a specialist.
I,
She works specifically on biotechnology.
I also do like it because I think they changed it a bit in 616, but Sue is less of a housewife. She's Reed's age. She's if anything, she's kind of the more dominant of the two, but also she's like his equal in specifically
Yeah,
biology. Yeah,
yeah, totally. It
yeah,
really puts them on a more leveled playing field than you look back at the original Lee Kirby comics where she's literally just there to be his fiance and later wife. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, that's not great.
Yeah.
But we then get a flashback once again to Victor as a child, and his dad is having him recite the names of all his ancestors in order. He gets it wrong and he gets beaten.
I will say that one isn't as weird as people think it is, because I do know families that have like very extensive lists of their family trees do occasionally just go down through all their alleged ancestors. So
No, that's true. Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah,
my older sister takes pride in, like, because, for our full name, you have the list of all your ancestors. So she takes pride in the fact that she's got it memorized. Pretty sure my younger sister does too. Yeah, that's a pretty normal thing. But getting
though his
slapped by
dad's
your father when you get it wrong, that's not as normal. And then we
yeah,
flash forward to the present day, and Van
is
Damme
still
is
doing it.
sitting there. He's still doing it, just being like, I can do it. I've got it now. And he
Yeah.
goes on this whole monologue about, oh, science has a lot of art to it, and that's what you don't understand, Richards. And
Hmm.
his skin is shedding like a
Yeah.
snake.
At one point, he just rips off the last of his skin on like his fist or something.
So it's very clear that he was affected by the accident that affected
Yeah.
the Fantastic Four as well.
And when we get the full explanation of what happened with the accident, it makes sense, because some of it at least makes sense for Doctor Doom or Victor
Yeah,
Von Dam, because it's Belgian
Van
apparently.
Damme. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Belgian, yeah, or Danish. We find out, but also it's interesting because like this is the first instance that we get Victor getting affected by the accident in comics, because usually Doctor Doom is like the separate entity,
Hmm.
separate from the Fantastic Four. Like, yes, it's connected to Reed, but his origin is not the same. Here, he is part of the original four or five.
Yeah, now he's explicitly tied to the origin of the Fantastic Four when he's not in the original comics.
Yeah, and which we'll now get from the future TV shows and the movies.
Yeah,
And it's also this interesting take where if he and Reed had a better relationship, they could have been the Fantastic Five.
that's true. Yeah,
He could have
it would
been
have been
Uncle.
pretty different.
He could have been Uncle Victor to Valerie, which he
Yeah, I
is.
mean, he is in the
I
main
know.
comics, yeah, to Valeria, yeah.
Yeah,
But it probably could have been a more civil relationship within the whole family.
yeah.
But
Though it would also be funny because it means, hey, all of the Sue family got super cool powers. Reed got a pretty cool power. All his friends, Ben and Victor, just ended up deformed monsters.
yeah, we're going to see more about what happened to Victor. But yeah, for right now, at the end of issue 7, he's just like shedding his skin and he's just in this tattered green hood and
Yeah,
he's kind of falling apart.
is
But
also
he's working on this new mechanical fly.
yeah,
So he's plotting and he's scheming.
yeah. I mean, I would too if I found out I got turned into the thing. Thing one,
I
thing
mean,
two.
he's thing 2.
It's thing yes. In the universe where
We
it's
got Ben, who's thing 1, and Doom, who's thing 2.
yes. I mean, yes. They got the same. Other than the weirdness of Doom's powers later, they got the same stuff, really.
Yeah, I think Doom's just a worse version of that, honestly.
Yeah.
As much as gets talked about how Ben is allegedly hideous and everything and all that because he's a giant rock monster, Doom is actually deformed.
He he has goat feet somehow.
Yeah, no, we'll get that reveal later, but there's a whole lot going on. He's a mess.
Yeah.
The next issue begins in Copenhagen,
Cool.
and there's this kid who's at this bar. He's studying abroad for a year, and he's complaining about everything costs an arm and a leg. It's super expensive. And as someone who did study abroad in Copenhagen, I can attest that is 1,000% true. It's one of the most expensive cities in the world. Everything costs so much money.
Hey. As someone who lived in Scotland, I mean, yeah, you should have done it in Scotland. They speak English. They like Americans.
I mean,
It's
they speak English in Copenhagen, in
yeah.
Denmark too.
No,
Like most people speak English.
yeah, but in Scotland, everyone speaks English. You may still need a translator, but I studied abroad smartly because I went to Scotland.
Hey, I enjoyed my time in Copenhagen. I just say, like, I was glad I was in a homestay. So, like,
Yeah,
I didn't have to worry about buying groceries and stuff all the
Oh,
time.
okay, that's pretty cool. I didn't know how to cook in Scotland, so I spent way too much money on food. Hey, in Scotland, I saw Avengers.
Nice.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah, Endgame?
yeah. I think which one came out at the time? Yeah, I think it was Endgame.
Because we studied abroad in the same semester.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was Endgame because I saw Endgame
hmm
in Copenhagen too.
And I'll say this: whenever British people, Americans are so childish. They clap during Star Wars. I was in a British theater and the whole audience clapped when the Avengers during Avengers. Just saying.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I also saw it when I took a weekend trip to Belgium,
yeah,
and the whole audience was cheering when Captain America was lifting Mjolnir in an
yeah.
Endgame.
Same with in Scotland. Everyone was cheering.
Surprisingly, Captain America's popular overseas.
I think it's always a thing where people like the idea of America, which Captain America is. They just don't like America itself,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. Captain
That's
America
true.
is.
Yeah.
I always defend Captain America. I know it's not a Captain America comic. I always would defend Captain America too. Mostly Americans who don't like it. I'm like, Captain America is not America. He is what America should be and could be.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Except Ultimate Captain America. He's just a dick.
Yeah. Ultimate Captain America sucks.
Yeah.
But yes, that's enough of our tangent on studying abroad. Shout out to my host mom, Anya. Hi, Anya, if you're listening. But yeah, then there's a Danish local who tells the student about there's this place called the Free Zone, and this place has free food, electricity, internet. You don't have to worry about a thing. And the guy's like, "Oh, is this like a hippie thing?" And it's totally a hippie thing.
But it also shows that no matter which universe you go to, there is an altruistic side to Doom. Yes, he's a bad guy, but there is a genuine sense of love for humanity he has.
We'll get more into what goes on in this society, but yeah, Doctor Doom believes he is doing the right thing and he's taking care of people and he's being benevolent. But as we get deeper and deeper into this mysterious society, the Free Zone, we'll find out there's more going on than what it appears.
Yeah.
We cut to Reed checking in on Ben, asking, like Josh mentioned earlier, if he can poop,
You
which
know,
is a very awkward encounter because they're both just sitting there like you can tell neither of them wants to have this conversation. But Sue sent Reed to ask Ben this because she thought Ben would be more comfortable with Reed asking this.
but also I'll be honest, if I was a doctor and I go like, hey, one of your patients just turned into rocks, I'm gonna go like, can he poop?
I mean, yeah, but like we as the readers, I feel like the less we know, the better. But some people probably want to know, like you, Josh.
Well, look, there's two things I gotta say. In the MCU, we saw Krog poop, and it was just a bunch of rocks. Second of all,
You
you
mean
remember in
Korg?
Korg, sorry. He was played by the New Zealand guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's also makes a vampire show.
Taika Waititi.
The Kika Watiti, yes. Or I think that's how you pronounce it, right?
Taika.
Watiti! Oh. It's like the Jawa sound though in Star Wars, like Watiti!
Anyways, what were you saying, Josh?
But it's a high school meme of like they cut open Lightning McQueen to see his organs.
Oh my gosh, that's disturbing. Yeah,
Yes.
no one needed to know.
I'll send it to you through text after this. It's okay.
Anyways, uh, I would love to see that. But then we cut back to the Free Zone, and Hjalmar, I think is the Danish guy's name.
You're the
He
one who speaks
shows the study
Danish.
abroad student around the Free Zone.
He shows Nabeel
I
around the
do
free
not
zone.
speak Danish.
Okay, he shows Nabeel around the free zone. It's free. There's free food, electricity, internet, and we meet Von Dom, and he's got goat legs.
Yeah, he has goat legs, and that was a choice that they made. I'm like, this is too goofy. They made some choices with Doom in this version, and the goat legs I cannot abide. There's no point to this. Why does he have goat legs? Why is he like, was it a
Look,
satyr? Is that the creature?
so when we get back to the others, Reed explains that like the way the technology works is that like changes your matter into what it could have been, and that makes sense for him being metal. It doesn't explain the goat legs, actually, though. If that makes
No, it
sense.
doesn't. It doesn't explain
Like,
that at all. And why
expensive
we
metal.
decided to include the goat legs makes no sense to me.
So that implies how like Johnny and Sue in an alternate state of them would have been invisible or psychic or fiery, and same with Reed and Ben. Doom could have been metal, but there's also the implication that at one point there's an alternative version of Doom based on his genetics that just also has goat legs, or that's some natural phase of Victor's biology is goat legs,
Yeah.
which is like, what's up with that? That makes no sense. It's hideous. He's a monster.
And so the whole thing with this whole like them going into phase space, as Reed says, when they opened a portal to the end zone, is that the superpositioner wasn't adjusted or calculated to the right specifications to make sure that when they went into phase space and they like were exposed to all conceivable states of their being, the superpositioner wasn't able to make sure that their original state of matter remained the same. So that's how they got transformed
Yeah,
into a rock monster and becoming invisible and turning on fire and
and growing
stretching
goat
and
legs.
apparently, yeah.
That's the thing I don't like is that like I feel the movie did this. The movies, for all their faults, did that explanation for Doom pretty well, and that they gave him the metal skin and they gave him some sort of like energy power. But the goat legs, man, the goat legs just don't make sense. He's
They
just a
don't
demon.
make any
He
sense.
also has sharp teeth, by the way. That's like another weird thing.
But yeah, Reed is also saying that they need to know how Victor changed the superpositioner codes so that way they can enter in like those codes so they can change themselves back and get themselves back to normal is the whole thing.
You know that really just applies to Ben because everyone else ended up with awesome powers.
But it seems like Reed wants to be changed back too and wants everyone else to be changed back. And Ben wants to leave the building too. And Reed says that Dr. Storm wouldn't allow them to leave, specifically Ben, because he's a giant rock monster. And there's a funny line where he's like, they let Ozzy Osbourne out on the streets, but I have to stay indoors. Which is really funny considering we have talked about Ozzy Osbourne on this podcast before.
To be fair, I think this is around the time we found out in real life Ozzy Osbourne is a mutant.
Yes.
Yes,
What do
but
you mean by that?
he and his family genetically are more resistant to narcotics, which is how they're still
Mm,
alive after how many drugs Ozzy has done.
that
So
makes sense.
they I think this when the government started paying him to do blood samples and tests on his body so we could learn more about drugs from him.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think this is around the time we found out Ozzy Osbourne had powers himself.
that's crazy.
Yeah, we all know if Ozzy Osbourne in the Marvel universe is also a mutant and lived on Krakoa for a bit because you know
I would love to read that short story.
they're also the Baxter Building also surrounded by guards.
Hmm.
And Reed goes like, "Oh no, we always had guards, but they moved all the students to Oregon," which is the opposite of the movie because in the movie, the Fanforstic, they moved the Fantastic Four to Oregon, and the student, and here it's the other way around. The students go to Oregon, and they stay in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And now the building is under heavy military watch because now the Fantastic Four are probably seen as like dangerous.
yeah.
And so it's a pretty tense environment generally.
Well, they are
But
dangerous. To be very fair to them.
yeah, but they haven't done anything. All they've done is save the world from the mole man, but that's fine.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot they fight the Mole Man first.
Yeah, yeah. Just like in the original comics, that's their first villain here.
Yeah, it's just that Doctor Doom is just all consuming. Doctor Doom and Galactus are just so much more impressive and all consuming as villains.
Yeah, Mole Man isn't the most impressive, but he's a fun first villain.
Yeah, he's a starter villain. He's a
Yeah,
starter
he is
villain.
literally a starter villain. Yeah.
He's a guy you beat on like a side quest.
Yeah, and then you're like, that was fun. Now
Yeah,
let's fight the real villains.
yeah.
So there's a fun moment then we get next where Sue wants to test out Ben's strength.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this classic moment where they have this like giant like bench press on top of him of weight and they
Yeah,
are worried it's going to hurt him, but of course he
yeah.
ends up breaking through the press because he's so strong.
I think they said it's 7 tons each, and he grabs one with each hand.
Yeah, he destroys it
Yeah.
easily.
14 tons, man. That's Spider-Man level strength.
Yeah, that's more than Spider-Man.
How much is Spider-Man? I think 616 he generally goes 1 to 3 tons.
No, it's like 10 tons for
So
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man itself is around Thing level strength then, 616.
The Thing is still stronger, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, what is 10 tons? Is that like 5 elephants?
That's like 20,000 pounds.
Okay. So he could beat up an elephant, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't read that story personally, but that would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man versus the elephant.
Well, I forgot he already fights the rhino, so that's close enough.
But where's the elephant?
Where's the
Give
elephant?
us the elephant, you cowards.
The rhinos. Here's my new sidekick, the elephant. What does he do?
The rhino's not good enough. We need the elephant.
Well, elephants are stronger than rhinos. Fun fact.
All right, well, let's test Spider-Man's strength for real.
It's like, what's the elephant's power? The same thing as a rhino, but it's like elephant themed.
Getting back to the story, then after they test Ben's strength, then there's also a big break-in at the Baxter building.
Yeah.
The windows crash, and then we cut to Johnny on a date with this girl, but Johnny's still surrounded by guards in suits and sunglasses who have just monitoring him, but he's talking to this girl and he's trying to convince her that he's Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't believe you. And then when he sees the break in the Baxter, he flames on and flies towards it. And she goes like, well, if you are Justin Timberlake, introduce me to Simon Cowell, because I want to sing on American Idol. Which is, I forgot American Idol was a thing. Is it still a thing?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It might be. It was in the last few years, last time I checked, though. Different judges, though, obviously.
I thought it's The Voice now. Or is that a different thing?
The Voice is different. The X Factor, The Voice, they've made so many of these shows now.
Yeah.
The break-in is by a lot of these robotic flies, so obviously Doom or Van Damme has set these guys to attack the Baxter building.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a classic, I feel like, Doctor Doom plot that comes straight out of the Lee Kirby days of Fantastic Four, where Doom did goofy-ass shit like this, where he just sends a bunch of robotic flies to attack. This is like when he tried to pull the Baxter building into space, which he did. Crazy things like that, or putting a giant electrified net around the Baxter. Stupid, goofy. This is very much in the spirit of that.
The one thing I never understood is like, with Doctor Doom, usually you know why he does stuff, generally now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, and we never really get a full explanation of why he sends these robot flies.
Yeah, we'll learn more about them in a sec. I think I kind of get what the purpose is a little bit, but because he doesn't know for sure what happened to the Fantastic Four from the accident, he's not sure if they're transformed or anything. So if they didn't have powers, this probably would be a threat to them. But we get a cool moment at the end of issue 8 where Johnny flames on and heads up the Baxter building, and he starts using his head, which is fun. He literally is like, think like Reed, think like Sue, think like, his dad, Dr. Storm. So what he does is there's a bunch of glass falling from the Baxter building, and he literally superheats it to the point that it evaporates.
Yeah.
And there's a cliffhanger then at the end of issue 8 after that, which is just kind of odd, where it's like literally just a panel of Reed about to get stung by one of these robotic flies, and we're like, oh no, as if that's supposed to leave us in suspense.
It's like he's basically invulnerable. He's like a giant stretchy condom man.
It's just, thank you for that image. It's just a very awkward place to cut off the issue, but whatever. Well, it's a minor complaint.
The arc, in my opinion, is very smooth. So as someone who reads it like 20 years in the future, I have no complaints. So,
all right, well, good for you, Josh.
Yeah, sucks for those who have to read it then, like month by month.
Suckers, 2004 chumps.
It's actually crazy because it's one issue a month. So some of these do take a full year to get out. Like arc, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then we cut to beginning of issue 9. We have Reed, Sue, and Ben all meeting up with Johnny after they escaped the lab where they were ambushed by all those flies.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need to find Dr. Storm.
Yeah. Sue has that classic moment where she crushes a bunch while still trying to use her powers, and she starts nose bleeding. She also doesn't turn invisible all the way really quickly. She turns her skin invisible, and you see for a brief second her organs and bones just clashing around.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about the Fantastic Four's biology here, and I'm like, all right, let's give
Come
it a
on, it's
rest,
fun. It's
guys.
fun. It's like we're learning about them. It's better than like look. It's better than what was going on with X-Men at the time, where they go like, by the way, mutants don't get AIDS, and so if we give blood to AIDS victims, okay, that's still
Somehow, we're not even doing an X-Men episode, and you still managed to bring up the Chuck Austin X-Men run.
look.
I don't
Hey,
even know how that happened.
during COVID, I was randomly choosing. I should read X-Men. I randomly chose an issue, and that's the first thing I read, and I'm like, what is this? Like, why is
Man,
this?
you chose poorly.
I know
Yeah,
I just poorly. Well, the point is, this is fine. This is nothing compared to Ultimate Iron Man or the AIDS stuff with X-Men.
that's true. No, I mean, and it is, I'll be fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it makes sense for the Fantastic Four for them to explore the mechanics of how they work and how their powers work and
Yeah.
things like that and
And
how they were transformed.
to be fair, none of it's crazy except the Reed doesn't have organs. Like, honestly, that's the only really crazy one. I feel the thing stuff makes sense. It's like we don't understand him. We're still, and they would also explain why Reed's the world's smartest man. He still can't cure him. Is that like they just don't know what he is? The
Yeah.
organ stuff is kind of weird. Like, no joke. That's just weird.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
But Sue does get that badass moment where she crushes a bunch of bugs in this force field cube. And
Yeah.
she does have the classic nosebleed moment. It's cooler than in the movies where it seems like she's struggling a lot. In this one, she has the nosebleed, but then she just wipes it away, turns around, and is like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And all the guys are looking at her and they're like, damn, okay, let's
Yeah.
follow her.
Yeah. I think Reed also says if all these are combined, they could just go through all of us, maybe even Ben. So he kind of
Yeah.
changes his mind like the next issue, but to be fair, he doesn't know what's going on.
But yeah, these are actually some really strong robots here,
Yeah.
even though they are just flies, but they're dangerous.
Yeah.
And they get the four get trapped because the building's containment protocols just like shut a bunch of doors in the hallways, so they
Yeah.
can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And Dr. Storm is trapped in his office too with with the military general. And he's desperately like, I gotta go out there, I gotta save my kids, Sue and Johnny, and the general like won't let him. He's like, listen, my men are out there too. And like these four are like the best chance we've got, and they're capable. And I'm like, fair enough, yeah. At least he realizes like this is the best chance they have at stopping this is the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And there's a really fun sequence in one page of just you see panels of everyone else, Sue, Johnny, and Ben, all using their powers to take down the bugs. And Reed is just standing there at the bottom panel, just like, what do I do? Because he doesn't have the offensive capabilities with his powers, I feel like the others have. Even Sue, who her force fields are more, they can seem more defensive, but she can use them for plenty of offensive purposes.
I think she could just at a certain point she just could throw them too, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so but Reed then decides to just use his brain because honestly, that's a much better power than his stretching powers.
Yeah.
If I'm being real.
Also, Reed does say, look, they may go through Ben, but I'm like, yeah, but if they go through you, Reed, you don't have organs. What are you worried about?
Yeah, like it's not going to be an issue.
He finds out the bugs are connected to like they're all connected to each other.
Yeah, it's really funny too because Reed discovers, all right, well, like using the building's motion sensors, he finds out all these flies have gathered in this specific lounge, and also all the bugs are connected to Bluetooth, and they've been put together through spare parts. And it's really funny because he actually explains what Bluetooth is, which I'm sure in 2004 people probably needed an explanation. I feel like 20 years later, we all kind of get the idea of what Bluetooth is.
Yeah, it's the thing you turn off when you get on the plane.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Josh proves my point exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's how he realizes very quickly, oh, based on these parts, this is Victor. And meanwhile, the big plan is that Reed is going to trap the flies in this lounge room with Johnny so he can incinerate them all. And Johnny is really funny. He's not even called the Human Torch yet. He's still trying to like workshop the names and figure out it's very early stages. He still doesn't have the Human Torch name down yet.
They call him the human cigarette butt at one point. They're still trying to figure. They got the human part down. Human underscore fire adjective. They got that down.
Yeah, it's really fun, and it's a fun moment for Ben as the Thing to like you show the fun, playful sibling like dynamic between
Yeah.
the Thing and the Human Torch, where he's teasing him and making up joke names for him.
Which is interesting because it's like this natural dynamic. But when we've met them earlier, they were just shitting on each other for no reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they barely knew each other
Yeah.
before this experiment too.
Yeah.
So, but now they've clearly bonded and have clearly become more like brothers.
Yeah. Probably talking about his
And
poops.
yeah. But then there's this big hero moment for Johnny where he literally just incinerates the entire A lounge and destroys all these flies, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And not literally, of course, because he's the Human Torch, but
Or the human cigarette butt.
yeah, if you will.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the rest of them are outside, and Sue is using her force field to contain the blast from the outside. And it's a really funny moment because Ben doesn't even feel the heat. They're like, "Don't you feel that?" And he's like, "Nah." Which is another fun fact
Yeah.
that they're learning about him as they go. It's like, he doesn't even feel heat. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
We already assumed he's bulletproof, I guess. But the other thing I find interesting, there's always this thing where Johnny is this kid, they go, oh, he theoretically is the weakest possibly of the Fantastic Four. Like, things invulnerable. Sue could put a force field in your brain in some versions.
Mm-hmm.
Reed, well, he's not really dangerous, but he's an inventor. He killed all the Avengers at one point in one universe. Yeah. But then, Johnny has, it's kind of like Iceman, where, if you really push him, he could just incinerate all of humanity. Theoretically, yeah. It's always an interesting thing.
Yeah, Johnny is definitely a big powerhouse on the team.
Yeah.
And I think that can be overlooked because I think clearly Sue is the most powerful member.
Yeah.
But I feel like after that, it would be Johnny.
Yeah.
Because of his abilities. It's even in the original Fantastic Four movies when he's Reed's telling him don't go supernova. You could kill everyone on this planet if you went and he's like, supernova, bad. And that's just from the movies. In the comics, he's performed some crazy feats with his powers. And yeah, you're right. It is similar to Iceman because a lot of the time I feel like with both of them, it's this idea of untapped potential and that they're kind of like jokesters, slacker kind of members of the team. But when they really focus and hone in and actually take things seriously, then they can do some major damage and really be powerhouses.
I just made the connection that if you're supernova, that's around the heat of the sun or something. I guess that would just incinerate most of Earth, at least.
Yeah, kill all life on this planet. Yeah,
it's actually also disturbing that if Reed didn't point that out, Johnny may have just done a supernova and just killed us all out by accident, which is horrifying in its own way.
I'm sure Reed had fail safes against Johnny or something. I don't know.
But what if Reed wasn't died in the accident? Johnny goes, "I want to test my powers to the max," and
yeah, oh my gosh,
it kind of reminds me of in the movie Oppenheimer, where they're testing the bomb, and they tell the general, "Well, there's a 7% chance it just wipes out all of humanity," and he goes, "I really wish you told me this a week ago."
Yeah. Well, then after this giant blast in the lounge, the rest of the four find Johnny unconscious there.
Yeah.
And he's going to be all right, even though he's unconscious and clearly spent. And it's really funny. Ben picks him up and he's like, "I'm just going to shave one of his eyebrows now." And yeah, that at the end of the issue is Reed flashing back to when he first met Victor in the first arc of this series. And he remembers the deal they had where if Victor helped him work on his device to get to the end zone, then he would help Victor with his robotics. And he was like, "It's Victor. He's coming after us."
Yeah. And they basically continue that next issue. He is talking with Dr. Storm, and we find out they know Victor's now operating out of Denmark, out of this hippie commune.
Yeah, literally. The address of this cell phone that is communicating to these robots is coming from Denmark, and he's using the same tech that he used when they were in school. And Reed's also like, "Okay, well, we're pretty sure that Victor doesn't know about our powers because these things weren't enough to kill us.
They're not enough to kill Ben is the other thing, which I guess he learns more. It's not enough to go through Ben is what he says. contradicting
Yeah.
what he said last issue. Though I guess it's because he now knows more about what's going on.
Yeah, totally. Also, so their idea is all right, either Victor wasn't transformed or he's arrogant enough to think that he was the only one who was transformed and the others didn't get any powers.
They also theorize he may have just gone. They don't know how it affected his mind, and he was already on the edge.
Yeah. So they don't know what's going on the other end. They just know he's operating out of Denmark and he's using these robotics to attack them. And Dr. Storm is like, listen, just let the military handle this. And Reed's like, well, this affects us. We need his help to get the right codes so we can actually change ourselves back. So this is our problem. And Dr. Storm's like, no, I got to protect my kids. Like, you guys are not going.
Yeah, let the free zone. Doctor Van Dam just tattoos Danny on the leg. I think at one point he just opens his mouth and it's just like he's just a monster. Like he has sharp teeth.
Yeah, there's a lot of, outside of the goat legs, there's a lot of like crazy things about Van Damme or Doctor Doom in this version.
Yeah,
But yeah, he gives this big monologue in his tent when the American Danny, who's studying abroad, comes in and he tattoos Danny and he's talking about, I give all these good things for you all and all I ask is loyalty.
and love, because I love you, is what he says.
Yeah, so this is all very much a strange new twist on the idea of Doom being this dictator of a foreign nation like Latveria in the original comics.
Yeah,
This version, it's like, oh, he's running this anarchist commune in Denmark, but it's basically the same concept is that he sees himself as this benevolent ruler who
yeah.
cares so much about his people and takes care of them when he's really controlling them
Well,
all,
but it
as
also
we'll later see.
this also reveals that he does have a heart. Like he does want to do the right thing, or what he thinks is the right thing.
Which is usually not the right thing
And
at
also,
all.
I'm glad you implied that Doctor Doom will be very happy in Portland or Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and that like I don't know, man. Free rent sounds kind of nice. Free rent and food. That kind of sounds like communism.
Yeah, I mean, but there's always a price to be paid, especially with Doom.
Well, look, there's always a price to be paid. Doctor Doom, 2028. We gotta break up the big banks. We gotta lower the rent.
I mean, there is an event going on currently in the main Marvel comics that's called One World Under Doom.
They've probably done this like multiple times. Is like Doom conquers the Earth or something. Like, hasn't this been done like 8 times already?
I mean, probably if we're looking back, but it's pretty fun. I really enjoy it. And the current writer of the Fantastic Four, Ryan North, is doing it.
Yeah,
And RB Silva is doing the art, and it's gorgeous. It's a really good event. I really enjoy it. And he's
yeah,
the Sorcerer Supreme right now in the
yeah.
main universe.
And he will be in Ultimate Marvel, by the way. By the way, there's no explanation for it. The reason I can bring it up without a spoiler is they just kind of make him Sorcerer Supreme in a throwaway line in like a crossover comic years down the line. They don't ever explain it.
I see.
Yeah, so you're not missing much. There's no like big spoiler about it. He just is one day. He says, "I am the Scientist Supreme and the Sorcerer Supreme." Fool.
Yeah, and that's what makes Doom kind of like a double whammy of a villain generally, is that he is a genius scientist and also very good with magic and sorcery.
Yeah, he has Iron Man. He has like this Iron Man as tech suit and magic, and the general thing on 616, like you said earlier, is that you also can't legally arrest him because he runs a country.
Yeah, he has diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, he's not plotting to take over a country. He runs a country.
He already runs one, yeah.
He has a vote in the UN.
Yeah, literally.
We all
It's crazy.
we all know he probably met like the president at one point.
Yeah, seriously, like he is a legitimate ruler of a recognized country of the UN.
Yeah, Penguin ain't got nothing. Like, Penguin runs Gotham City. Doctor Doom
Yeah.
has a vote in the UN.
A whole fucking country. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't need to like take over the city. He has a few cities technically.
He's got a whole nation under his boot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not under his boot because they love him. Like, if he were to step down, he'd be voted president like the next day.
Yeah, it depends on like who's writing it. Because
Yeah.
I feel like in some runs of Fantastic Four, he is beloved and like everyone sees him as this benevolent ruler, and in other versions people are like, ah, he's a tyrant. And
Yeah.
some versions, like, they pretend to love him because he's really just such a tyrant.
Oh, like Kim Jong Un or Stalin.
Yeah, so like it depends, but there are interesting takes where it's like I love the nuance of he's a horrible person, but he actually cares about his people. This is just diving more into the main universe in
No.
616, but yeah, I like the idea that the people actually do like him and he is a good ruler, and that's what makes it so complicated because he's the Fantastic Four's arch-nemesis and he's trying to make their lives miserable, but somehow he's a good ruler.
That's also realistic. Like a lot of dictators are like nasty pieces of work, but like in politics and history, they go like, well, we can't overthrow them because sometimes when you overthrow them, it makes things worse.
Yeah.
Like,
No, definitely.
yeah,
And that's happened a few times in the Marvel
it's
universe.
happened a few times in real life within our lifetimes.
Yeah.
I mean, Avengers, well, the Ultimates were commentary on it. You can't just go around doing it.
No, that's true.
Yeah. Also, there's like a weird thing. Latveria is in the Ultimate Universe. We have run across them like a handful of times. So it is an interesting take because Latveria already exists. They're just ruled by not Doctor Doom, I guess.
Yeah, maybe later. But for right
Yeah.
now, this anarchist commune in Denmark is his Latveria.
Yeah. It's this new Latveria.
Yeah, in a sense.
Yeah. Um.
Then we see Van Damme watching his cameras from the robots. Like one of the purposes I think of this attack was he had cameras on these robotic flies so he could see the four, and he can see that. Well, first he's furious that Reed survived the attack, so that now he's like pissed off and smashing things and like attacking Danny, the American that he just tattooed.
Mhm.
But we cut to the basement of the Baxter building where Reed reveals the Fantasticar to the rest of the four. And in this version, he developed it as a means to go and see his parents when he was still in school. Although it's really sad because he never used it.
Yeah.
So,
And Sue
rip.
goes, "It's okay. You have me now."
And that's sweet.
Yeah.
It's really sweet.
Maybe she shouldn't have broken up with him in a few issues.
We'll get to that later. But then he reveals the name and he's super embarrassed. He's like, I was 13. And he's like, the Fantastic Car. And I think it's a bit excessive because then they do a lot of mocking the name, the
Well,
Fantastic Car.
Ben and Johnny are dicks. I love how Ben
Yeah.
goes, "I'll go check the Fantastic Can," and the next issue goes, "I broke the Fantastic Can, Reed."
Yeah.
That's a toilet, right? The can?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's definitely pooping rocks.
A lot of talking about the thing pooping in these issues.
You know, so he has pants on. Well, so he poops. Does he have, like, a rock penis?
Listen, that's a question that has been brought up so many times in online discourse amongst the comic book community. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume yes.
I assume also yes.
Because I've read comics where there is heavy implications, heavy beyond implications. Sometimes it's almost explicitly stated that he has smashed
No,
as the thing.
it's also implied as fertile because I remember there was a comic where it's finally during the wedding. There's like a giant cat statue, and they're like, what's that?" And he goes like, "Oh, T'Challa sent it from Wakanda. It's like a fertility statue to help me bear sons." And I'm like, what? What's the implication?
Yeah. Listen, he hasn't actually procreated in the main universe. His kids are adopted, so like.
So the cat statue's not working, is what you're implying.
Well, this is going off on another tangent, but like it was when the Thing and Alicia were on their honeymoon in the main universe. That was the 1 week a year. It's that serum that Reed gave him in the Jonathan Hickman run, where like 1 week in a year he becomes normal Ben Grimm, and it was during their honeymoon. That was the week, and they were gonna probably try and have kids then. But of course, the puppet master sent the Hulk to go attack them, so he had to become the Thing again, and hopes were dashed.
Yeah.
Anyways, all that being said, we know for sure the Thing does have a rock penis.
He also has a tongue, so.
Yes.
Which is enough. Yeah.
Getting back on track, Reed explains the situation to the rest of the four about how they have to go get Victor before the military does so they can get the codes and change themselves back.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of Fan Forsic, where they go like, these aren't just powers, they're technically like our physical conditions have been permanently changed. Like legally, these are disabilities technically.
Technically,
Yeah,
yeah. And everyone is like, all right, let's go get him. Let's
yeah,
do it. And Ben finally says his catchphrase. He finally says it's clobberin' time.
and it's just from his
And
football coach.
yeah, it's a pretty fun explanation. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, it's something his old football coach used to say,
yeah.
which it's fun and way better than what they did in the Fantastic movie where they said where it was like what his older brother said right before he hit him. That's stupid.
I still like it.
Why would you use it then? It's like
It's
tied to a traumatic experience. Your brother
exactly
used to beat you
you.
and he said it's clobberin'
You
time.
traumatize out your trauma. You know, it's like it's like
Is
Doom
he like reclaiming it?
is reclaiming it. Yeah.
That's crazy. At the end of issue 10, Reed also mentions that he never flew the Fantastic Four before, and Johnny's like, whoa, what? Is this thing gonna blow up? And Reed's like, probably not. Maybe. Nah, probably not.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool how he's also like, yeah, we can use this thing, get to Denmark in 3 hours, which is like pretty good.
The plane from LA to New York City could get there in like 3-ish hours. So, just saying. It's doable.
I think it takes a little longer than
Only
that,
because of
going coast to
layovers.
coast.
Only because of layovers. By the way, everyone, in case you're watching this, I have a New York City hat because I just wanted to check out New York. My favorite part of Queens, Albany, where I found it was very cheap. It's not a
Your
long.
favorite part of Queens is Albany? That doesn't make sense.
It's because when I told my parents I'm moving to Albany. Okay, yeah, I guess you guys could track me down. Now. They didn't know Albany was its own city. They just assumed, oh, you're moving to Queens.
Oh my gosh.
And then my mom looked at a map and she was like, "It's not even in New York City. It's some random out in the middle of nowhere." And I'm like, "No, it's the capital of New York, and it's super cheap." But
Anyways, your point?
the point is, it's not a long flight from one coast to the other. It's also not a super long flight from like I don't know to Denmark, but from New York to UK is not a long-ish flight. It's just the way flights are now that it's long, if that makes sense. In like the 70s, there were jets that could get you from New York City to London very, very fast. But
Well, it's really funny because then he's talking about going to Denmark, and Ben's like, but I don't got no passport.
yeah.
And then, yeah, they take off, and Victor is ready and waiting to kill them
And I think
in Denmark.
he says, "Come to your doom." Finally,
Yeah. He's so dramatic.
but
He's such a dramatic little guy.
that's what I love about Doom is that he always says Doom, not just his name. He always goes like, "You are doomed. This is your doomsday. How dare you
He's
come to
so
my
extra, and I love it.
Yeah, it's better than Magneto, who goes like, "This is your end, X-Men." I was like, no, you should say, "Feel the power of magnetism," or I think he actually does say that. So I should.
Yeah, Magneto's had some cold lines in the past,
But do they
honestly. Like,
involve
he's got
magnets?
some. Sometimes.
Okay, and you can't
They don't
say.
always need to. Usually it involves something that where it's like, damn, all right, like you're the villain, but like you're right about that. You make some good
Yeah,
points.
but Doom finds a way to get his title, and he goes, "You are doomed. This is Doomsday." Magneto, you go like, "Prepare to face your defeat at the hands of the Master of Magnetism," and I'm like, that doesn't count. You just hand fisted that one in. Doom is
Yeah.
easier.
I mean, to be fair, they're different kinds of villains. They're both pretty dramatic. I feel like Magneto I can take a little more seriously because he's actually fighting for like civil rights.
So is Doctor Doom.
And
Doctor Doom in all the
Doom is fighting for himself. He's a petty little bitch.
Doctor Doom in all the universes where he takes over the universe or Earth, he ends persecution and racial animus is gone. Mutants are treated all right. Earth is respected. Just saying,
Man, we should
Doom's
read
fighting for the
Secret
benefit of all
Wars
here.
and talk about that.
Okay, Doom just had more important priorities on him, but he said he was gonna fix it down the line.
But he never did.
Well, because he was busy pretending to be Reed.
Stealing Reed's family and ruling a patchwork planet of
Okay,
like fragments of different universes.
Look, I don't think Reed could have done better, despite what Doom says.
But Doom literally said Reed could have done better. And so did Reed. They were both like, yeah.
Look, Doom did all right.
Anyways, let's just get back to the comics.
All right. Victor's watching them. He doesn't realize Reed has powers. And over the ocean, Sue just jumps on Reed and they make out randomly.
Yeah, because Reed, when they're flying over the ocean, he realizes again another look at their biology where he realizes he can stretch elements of his eyes to look even closer
Ah,
at things.
that's
Which, yeah,
disgusting.
is
I know
nasty.
what.
It is.
Yeah, we all know when Reed and Sue are
And
doing, he extends another part of his body.
care to elaborate?
I bet he makes it vibrate too.
Oh God. Okay. Anyways, I was just teasing you, but that was anyways, yeah, he flies over a bunch of dolphins and so Sue is enamored and immediately jumps on Reed and they start making out.
That's disgusting.
Johnny also thinks it's disgusting because it's his sister just like making it, and the thing is joking about Reed's tongue stretching and stuff. And it's funny, but also, geez, guys, get a room.
Yeah. Well, they don't have a room. They're on you know, people make out in cars all the time. Just saying.
I don't like that. These damn kids.
Damn. Yeah.
But yeah, Victor also has this interesting moment with his people in the free zone, and he starts talking like a true dictator because he's very much a man in power.
It's less of a dictator. He runs more of a cult, though. He goes like, "They're taking me from you. I love you," and they go, "We love you too."
Yeah, no, he is talking like a true cult leader because he's like, they want to take me away. They want to destroy the keep. And I'm just trying to feed and house all of you. And then they're chanting literally, we won't let them take you. They're chanting it louder and louder.
Look, you say the same thing if your landlord who gives you free rent and food is gonna be arrested, okay?
Yeah, but like, he's also a criminal and kind of an actual cult leader. So,
Yeah.
because then Victor shoots the Fantastic Four out of the sky
with a rocket launcher, just like the movie.
Yeah, and the airbags deploy, which is really funny in the
Yeah.
Fantastic Car.
Yeah.
And then there's that classic villain scene where he takes them all down one at a time.
Yeah.
He takes out the Human Torch, he takes out the Thing, he takes out the Invisible Woman.
The way he takes out Sue, I remember because he just breathes toxic fumes out.
Yeah, he's literally got dragon's breath now.
Yeah.
Is another thing, another power he's got.
He also shoots spikes from his body. So look, the spike thing I can understand. You return to skin metal, why not? The goat legs and the toxic fumes, I'm like, okay, by the logic of how these powers work and that they're like, oh, these are like what could have been your bodies in a different state. I was like, there's no way like that includes goat legs and toxic fumes, like some Pokemon.
They're just like, let's throw everything in there.
Yeah.
Like, what powers does he have? Yes. Yes.
He's a
all
demon.
of them.
No,
He
there's
breathes fire. He's got goat legs. Like, he sheds his skin.
it's just weird, it's so random. He's like, I know you're there, Susan. And the next issue is just him opening his mouth with his tongue out and this green thing just coming out after her.
Yeah.
She's just knocked out.
Yeah, and so they're all knocked out pretty much, and Reed is the last one to stand alone against Victor.
Yeah.
Which is the ending to issue 11, and it's interesting because as we established at the beginning of issue 11, Victor doesn't know that Reed has powers. He's like, somehow Richards was not transformed because I guess he just didn't see him stretching.
Yeah.
So issue 12 is like the big showdown between them.
Yeah.
And Reed just kind of trash talks Victor and provokes him into attacking him, where he's like, yeah, your dad beat you and kicked you like a mule and you just followed him around.
He says, I only became your friend because I pitied you. And Doom just jumps at him like an animal with his sharp teeth and his goat legs, like some angry cat.
Yeah, and he totally blindsides Victor with his powers, just stretches all around him and then wraps him up and starts beating him up and punching him. But even then, even though he's got him right where he wants him, then Victor won't give up the super positioning codes. And he says this really funny line that I think is hilarious. He's like, I leave you trapped in your fluid body, Richards, and I laugh at the horror of your life.
That's a Doom
And I'm
book.
like, that's hilarious.
But that's
like,
what 616 Doom would say.
That's so funny.
But it's so poetic and petty.
It's such a ridiculous quote.
But it's so poetic and petty, like the 616.
I leave you trapped in your fluid body.
But it's something you can see 616 Doom saying. Something so poetic
Yeah,
and petty and stupid at the same time.
it's so dumb, but it's so well worded and well put. I'm like, that's genius. Then after that,
It's the classic Fantastic Four scene. They all
mhm.
can't beat him single handedly, except maybe Reed. And they all take turns beating the crap out of Doom.
Yeah, because Reed was honestly just stalling, and now he's just like, all right, guys, get him.
Yeah,
And so Johnny, Sue, and Ben all take turns just beating up Doom.
yeah.
And Ben says a really funny line where he's like, I only met you twice, and I hate you already. And he just smashes him into the ground. And then Doom takes out, or Van Damme takes out his trump card. The tattoos that all his subjects had in this commune apparently have microchips in them. And so he activates it, and they're all under mind control. And
Well,
all these people just, all these Danish people just start swarming the Fantastic Four.
well, that's their landlord.
They're also under mind
They
control,
would have done it
Josh.
anyway. There's
How do we know?
it's
There's no
free
way of
rent.
knowing that because he immediately put them under mind control.
It's free rent. It's free rent in one of the most
Yeah, I'm
expensive
sure
cities in the
you
world.
probably would have been like one of like 5 people that all the rest of these citizens are under mind control, and you would have been the one person who would just be attacking of your own free will. No mind control necessary.
It's
You'd
free
just be
rent.
swarming the Fantastic Four. The mind control wears off, and you're still attacking them
It's free
because
rent.
you're like, it's free rent.
Yes, it's free rent. That's in one of the most expensive cities in the world.
Listen, I know times are tough, but come on, man.
Come on, man. We all know we would do it. You would do it too.
That's how you get lured in, and then they mind control you.
Yes. Well, that is actually how it happened. That Reed says like, I gotta figure this out, but then helicopters show up. I think it's the U.S. military. I thought it was Shield at first. The Danish military shows up in tanks, and they go like, "You can't come here, Americans,"
Yeah,
because Doom, Van Damme, amongst many other things, is a Danish citizen for some reason.
yeah.
No.
No, literally, they're like, he's a Danish citizen, and he's legally here, squatters' rights on this area. You have no jurisdiction here. And they even make a crack about, did you make a wrong turn at Iran, sir? I'm like, damn, got him. Call out the US military.
Yeah, and then so like everyone's leaving, and Reed just fixes the mind control thing at the last second.
Yeah, Doom, or Van Damme. Victor thinks that he's won, and then Reed manages to like disrupt the radio control signals in the implants that the subjects have in their tattoos. So he
Yeah,
breaks them all free of their mind control, and all of Doom's subjects abandon him. So the Fantastic Four still win the day, even
yeah,
though like they can't like arrest Doom or like take him down. They still get all his subjects to leave him.
yeah,
And so Van Damme's screaming, yeah, well, you still don't have the codes and you'll never change back. And the Thing has another really fun one liner where he's like, I'm still prettier than you, which is
yeah,
true.
because he has regular legs and a penis.
Yeah. And he does not have dragon's breath and his skin is not shedding.
Mhm.
And the issue just kind of ends with Reed.
Grabbing one of Doom's spikes, I think they shot out of his body. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and he throws it.
And he just cuts Doom in the face.
Yeah,
And he's like, impaled on your own sword, Victor.
yeah. It also we never get an explanation of why Doom did any of this. Why he's attacking the Fantastic Four. We just assume he went crazy.
I mean, yeah, I think he just kind of wants revenge on them for
But
the
like,
accident, even though
but
it
that
was
was
really
him.
his fault for changing the
Yeah,
codes. But I think he just really wants to get revenge on Reed and the rest of them.
kind of. But I don't know. Like, we never get a full explanation other than maybe he wants revenge because he's really angry at them, and also he also went crazy, possibly because that's what Doctor Storm says.
Yeah, it's not the best grand plan or scheme on Doom's part. There's not really a big plan other than I'm going to take over this abandoned part of Copenhagen and start my own commune society. And then I'll just try and destroy the Fantastic Four. That's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot to it. So it's not like the most genius master plan we've ever seen.
Yeah,
And it backfires anyway, so
only
but he
because of
lives to fight
Reed.
another day in Denmark. Yeah.
Yeah, only because of Reed, man. Hey, man. I also feel
Yeah,
sad. All
that's
these
true.
guys he gave free rent to just ditch him. I think it's a classic thing. He raised the rent by having to fight the Fantastic Four, and this all happened.
Yeah, because he mind controlled them.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, overall, this was a pretty fun series of issues. Like it was very fast paced. It was full of a lot of fun action, a good exploration of the Fantastic Four and how they've changed. Character dynamics were like especially a lot of good moments for everyone, especially Sue and Johnny.
Yeah.
Doom was like an interesting twist on the character, despite some glaring issues of like, why does he have goat legs?
They also give him goat legs in Marvel 1600. That being said, I don't think it's a bad take. I think it's a. I'm not gonna say it lands perfectly, but I think it's a decent take on a way. Because I feel Ultimate Spider-Man does the same to a lot of Spider-Man characters, and I don't think it's a terrible one. Maybe not my favorite, but I think it's fine. I think in the context of this universe and the specific arc, it's fine.
Yeah, I think so. I think it works.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
And it's a fun story. I think it gets a lot of the fundamentals down about who Doom is to the Fantastic Four and his relationship with Reed and the rest of them, and who he is as a ruler of a foreign nation, be
yeah,
that an anarchist commune or a literal foreign nation,
yeah,
and his scientific genius and how petty and goofy he can be. I think
yeah.
they get a lot of that down, like fundamentally, just right. All right, that wraps it up for this episode. Next time, we'll be going back to Ultimate X Men with a whole new creative team there, including writer Brian K. Vaughan. So that's going to be Ultimate X Men issues 46 through 49. It's going to be very fun. And Josh, where can our listeners reach us if they want to email us?
Could reach us at Gmail. It is Ultimate Comics Podcast at gmail.com. That is comics plural, podcast singular. So Ultimate Comics Podcast at gmail.com.
That's right. Email us with any of your thoughts about the comics, the podcast, any questions for us, any things you'd like us to discuss, pretty much anything. And we'd love to read it on the show and talk about it. If not, find us on Instagram at Ultimate Comics Podcast. You can also find us on YouTube, also at Ultimate Comics Podcast. We're on TikTok as well. We have so much social media, so please watch our TikToks, our reels on Instagram, our YouTube
Yeah.
shorts, our photos that we post on Instagram. It's a lot of fun. We
Yeah.
love to interact with our listeners and fans. It's a real treat for us. And then next time, once again, we'll be back with Ultimate X-Men. So can't wait to talk about it then. All right, everyone, take care and make mine Ultimate Marvel. Bye bye.